Dreams continuation. When they were children, Yuki and Haruto were inseparable. They shared laughter, dreams, and a promise. When we grow up, let's meet again. On the last day before Yuki moved away, they stood under a cherry blossom tree in full bloom, petals falling like snow. Promise? Yuki asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. Haruto nodded, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. Promise. Years passed and life took its course. Yuki moved to a distant city and Haruto remained in their hometown. Though they tried to keep in touch at first, time and distance slowly pulled them apart. As the seasons changed, their memories of one another became faint echoes of a time long gone. Yet the promise they made beneath the cherry blossoms remained a faint light in their hearts. 15 years later, Yuki, now an accomplished writer, returned to her hometown for a book signing event. She had written numerous novels, each inspired by fragments of her childhood memories. But there was always a lingering emptiness, a part of her life that felt incomplete. She had returned not just for work, but to find a piece of her past that she had never quite forgotten. As she stood in front of the old bookstore where the event was to be held, a sense of nostalgia washed over her. The street was lined with familiar shops, and the scent of fresh bread from the bakery next door filled the air just as it had when she was a child. But there was something missing. Someone missing. The bell chimed as she entered, and she was greeted warmly by the store owner. The book signing was scheduled to begin shortly, and people were already gathering. As Yuki greeted her fans, she felt a mixture of joy and nervousness. Her eyes scanned the crowd, searching for a face she wasn't sure she would recognize anymore. Then, among the sea of strangers, she saw him. Haruto stood near the back of the crowd, his gaze fixed on her. For a moment, time seemed to stop. It was as if they were children again, standing under the cherry blossom tree, making their promise. Haruto looked almost the same, his eyes still held that warmth she remembered so well. As the event ended, Haruto waited patiently. When the crowd dispersed, he approached her, a hesitant smile on his face. Yuki, it's been a long time. She felt a rush of emotions, joy, relief, and a tinge of sadness. Haruto, I almost thought I'd never see you again. They decided to catch up over coffee at a nearby cafe, one they used to visit as children. The cafe owner, recognizing them, greeted them with a knowing smile. The atmosphere was warm, filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft murmur of conversations. They sat by the window, watching the gentle rain begin to fall. As they talked, they reminisced about their childhood adventures, exploring the forests, climbing trees, and racing each other to the riverside. It felt like no time had passed, yet they both knew things had changed. There were unspoken secrets lingering between them, shadows that had formed over the years. Yuki hesitated before finally breaking the silence. Haruto, there's something I need to tell you. Her voice wavered, and she clenched her hands, trying to find the right words. I came back because I felt like I left something unfinished. Haruto's eyes softened. I know, I felt the same way. She looked at him, her heart pounding. The truth is, I've been sick. For years, I've struggled with an illness that keeps getting worse. She paused, her voice barely a whisper. That's why I left. Haruto's expression shifted to one of concern. Yuki. I didn't want you to worry. I didn't want you to see me like this, she continued. But I realized that I can't run from it anymore. I wanted to see you one last time before. Haruto reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Don't say that. We made a promise, remember? We said we'd meet again when we grew up. And here we are. Tears welled up in Yuki's eyes, but I don't know how much time I have left. Then, let's make the most of it, Haruto said firmly. Let's create new memories, just like we did when we were kids. From that day on, they spent every moment they could together. They revisited old haunts, discovered new places, and shared stories they had never told anyone else. Yuki felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. Despite the pain, she found joy in the simplest things. Walking under the cherry blossoms, laughing with Haruto, feeling the breeze on her face. But as time went on, Yuki's condition worsened. Haruto remained by her side, supporting her through every step. He took her to the hospital for treatments, held her hand when the pain became unbearable, and reminded her of the promise they made all those years ago. One evening, as they sat beneath the cherry blossom tree where they had first made their promise, Yuki looked up at the stars. Haruto, if I don't make it, promise me you'll keep smiling. Promise me you'll live your life to the fullest. Haruto's voice was steady, but there was a hint of sadness. I promise, Yuki, but you have to promise me one thing too. What is it? She asked, her eyes reflecting the light of the stars. Promise me you'll always be with me, no matter where you are. Yuki smiled, her eyes filled with tears. I promise. As the days grew shorter, Yuki's strength faded, but the love they shared grew stronger. When she finally closed her eyes for the last time, Haruto held her hand, feeling the warmth leave her fingers. But he knew that her spirit would always be with him, guiding him, just like they had promised. Years later, Haruto returned to the cherry blossom tree, now with his own child. As he stood beneath the blossoms, he looked up at the sky, feeling Yuki's presence in the breeze. He knew she was there, watching over him, as he had promised. And so, their story continued, beyond time and space, a dream that would never end. I hope you enjoyed this version. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments.